Hi guys, so in what's probably a dream come true for most Brexiteers, Royal Navy gunboats are being sent to France, or not France, but to Jersey to defend what? Well, officially they're there to monitor the situation, HMS Severn and HMS Tamar. Now, before we get to the Jersey Fishing Association's response to this, I think it's important to look at, well, what's happened here. So recently, the UK government had told French fishermen, EU fishermen to be more exact, that they could continue to access the waters around Jersey if they had fished for 10 days in 2017, 2018 and 2019. So they would be given a license to carry on. But what happened was on Friday, new conditions were attached. And on Monday, the fishermen were not able to continue to fish as they were before. So let's hear what the Fishing Association in Jersey had to say about this, and then we'll get to the European Union's response.
How serious the French were about this blockade, and the big question on everybody's lips right now is, will our government capitulate to that sort of tactics? The French fishermen out there want the conditions removed from their licenses so that they can fish with no constraints in our waters, whilst our boats are subject to all sorts of conditions about how much they can catch, where they...
See, the problem here is that this was agreed by the UK government. Now, Jersey is part of the UK in a sense, so they are under the restrictions of Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. So if Boris Johnson's government have changed the rules without providing sufficient time to adjust, or at least consultation with the other side, then it's Boris Johnson's fault.
They can go. It would be grossly unfair of our external relations to capitulate to that. If he does, we will see that sort of tactics being used again and again in the future. So not very happy fishermen down here this morning, suspecting that we probably will see our government give in to that.
Well, we've heard that one of Jersey's politicians is looking to head out on a boat imminently to talk to the French fishermen. Do you know any more about what's going to be said? Yeah,
it's exactly that. Those French fishermen there are not happy that conditions have been placed on the licences given by Jersey, even though their own licences to fish in their own waters have all sorts of conditions, as do our boats. It would be...
It's not that there were conditions, it's that the conditions changed and there was no consultation.
Grossly unfair and highly discriminatory on our fleet to have to fish against that huge fleet out there in our waters, and to see those boats have no constraints whatsoever, and for our boats to be subject to all sorts of conditions. That would just be absolutely unacceptable, and what we want to know is whether our government is going to capitulate to that or not.
Okay, so what is actually really the situation here? So the EU also backed claims of French fishers. In a statement issued overnight, the European Commission said the conditions set on license for fishing in the Channel Island waters were in breach of the trade agreement struck on Christmas Eve. So remember, Boris Johnson and the EU spent last year hammering out a trade deal. And there were certain conditions on both sides in that trade deal. Now it seems that Boris Johnson's government, or to be more exact, Jersey, have added new conditions. So it says here, a spokesman said the Commission was notified on Friday the 30th of April, so Friday the 30th of April, by UK authorities of the granting of 41 licenses to EU vessels for fishing in Jersey's territorial waters as of the 1st of May, with specific conditions. However, under the EU-UK TCA, any proposed management conditions have to be notified in advance to the other party, giving them sufficient time to assess and react to the proposed measures. So what happened was the UK government made changes on the 30th of April, notified the EU on the 30th of April, which was a Friday, and then on the Monday, these conditions came into force. So there was no real consultation here. There was no advanced notice. A couple of days Furthermore, any addition to new specific conditions to these fishing authorizations that limit EU fishing activities in UK waters must comply, it should be, with the objectives and principles set out in the TCA, which are based on clear scientific rationale. So you need to have a real reason. What is the motivation here? Any such conditions must be non-discriminatory between UK and EU vessels. So what probably happened is that the fishermen in Jersey are angry. They've been thrown under a bus by the Brexiteers. They've been thrown under a bus by Boris Johnson. And they want to stop seeing, they don't like to see French fishing vessels coming into their territory. And they put pressure on the government to do something about it. And the government was, okay, let's just make these people happy and hope that the French don't understand or don't react to it. This is the Brexiteer mentality. Deal with the problem today and forget about the long-term impact of it. It goes on to say the Commission has clearly indicated to the UK that the provisions of the EU-UK TCA have not been respected. Once again, breaking the trade deal. Now, remember, Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers trumpeted this trade deal. Remember, back on Christmas Eve, Boris Johnson smiling from ear to ear about how wonderful this trade deal would be. Brexiteers claiming victory over the EU. Yes, we got our trade deal. And now he's already breaking it. Until the UK authorities provide further justifications on the new conditions, these new conditions should not apply. So it's probably what's going to happen is the EU is going to make a complaint under the structures in place to verify whether these the trade deal has been breached. And there'll be consequences for that. Now, instead, how can we actually resolve this? The way to resolve this has always been negotiation. Okay, the UK government should go to the EU and say, look, our fishermen feel that they don't have sufficient access to the waters around Jersey. Now, the EU can respond by saying, yes, but you agreed to this. Why did you sign up to this? Maybe Boris Johnson's response would be, well, I had to sign up because, we had a time limit. Once again, this goes back to the problem I've talked about in the past. If the UK had actually given itself enough time, if Boris Johnson hadn't set an arbitrary time limit, could have actually had a decent trade deal. But because Boris Johnson wanted everything done within a year, it meant that he had to agree to things that he would later disagree with. I've said it before. If you have to negotiate with another side and you need to negotiate in a day, you limit your own time to negotiate, then you're going to agree to things that you probably wouldn't have agreed to at the beginning because of the time limit. But if you don't have a time limit, you can sit it out, you can wait, you can try to gain more concessions. But once again, Boris Johnson forced his own government to agree a trade deal within a very limited amount of time, which meant that they had to sign up to things that they probably didn't want to at the beginning, hoping once we get Brexit over the line, everything will be okay and we'll deal with problems as they arise. And here are the problems, and how instead of actually responding to it using diplomacy, instead of responding to it using common sense, no, what we do is we send gunboats. This is not the way to negotiate. And the European Union are not going to just say, oh, I'm sorry, you send some gunboats, then we're going to give you whatever you want. That's not how it's going to work. But it's important to remember that this situation is because of Boris Johnson's negotiating tactics. Boris Johnson is responsible for this. The Brexiteers are responsible. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?